King Charles might finally be waking up to a very big and very sad truth. For a long time, he tried to be a nice father and a good leader. But now, he is starting to see that there is simply no good reason to keep trying to work with Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. It is like trying to fix a toy that keeps breaking every time you touch it. After many years of feeling hurt and confused, the king is beginning to realize that the best thing to do might be to stop trying altogether. He has realized that his son and his son's wife do not want to play by the rules of the family, and they do not seem to care about the hard work the king is doing for the country. This is a very big moment for the king because he is a man who loves his family very much, but he also has a very important job to do for the whole world. One of the biggest signs that things have changed is about a special house called Sandringham. Sandringham is a very large and beautiful place where the royal family likes to go during the summer and for holidays. Usually, the king invites his family to stay there so they can spend time together away from the cameras and the busy city. But this year, something very different happened. The king decided not to invite Harry and Meghan to Sandringham. This is like a father telling his children they cannot come home for Christmas. It is a very loud and clear message. People who know the king say that he made this choice right after his big trip to Australia. This trip was very important for the king, and something that happened during that time made him decide that enough was enough. There is a famous saying about the straw that broke the camel's back. Imagine a big camel carrying a lot of heavy bags. One by one, you keep adding more bags. The camel is strong, so it keeps walking. But eventually, you add one tiny piece of straw, and the weight is just too much, and the camel falls down. A friend of the king said that the Australia trip was that last piece of straw. For many years, the king has been very patient. He sat quietly while Harry and Meghan did a big interview with Oprah Winfrey where they said many mean things. He stayed quiet when they made a movie for Netflix that showed private family secrets. He didn't say anything when Harry wrote a whole book called Spare that was full of angry stories about his brother and his father. He even let them give their children royal titles like Prince and Princess. But now, the king has reached a point where he cannot take any more. The way they acted during the Australian tour was just too much for him to ignore. To understand why the king is so upset, we have to look at how Harry tried to get an invitation. Usually, if you want to visit your dad, you call him or send a private message. But Harry did something very different. He went to the newspapers and the TV reporters first. He told the media that his family would think about coming to Sandringham if they were invited. This was a very sneaky way of doing things. Instead of asking nicely, he made it sound like he was doing the king a favor. He made it seem like the ball was in the king's court and that the king had to be the one to make the first move. This was a trick to make the king look like the bad guy if he didn't send an invite. It was not a real request from a son to a father. It was a plan to put pressure on a very busy and sick king. The people who work for the king at the palace have to be very careful. They often talk to newspapers like the Daily Mail. Sometimes they say things like, "Oh, the king isn't going to punish Harry and Meghan. He doesn't want to make them sad. He won't take away their titles." But many people think this is a mistake. They think the king needs to be stronger. Harry and Meghan have been doing things that make the king look bad all over the place. They have done things in Ukraine, in Washington, D.C., and all over the internet that make the royal family look messy. People are telling the king that he must do something because the situation is getting worse and worse every single day. If he doesn't act, it makes the whole country look weak. The way Harry and Meghan used the media was very smart, but it was also very mean. They used their own children to try to make the king feel bad. This is called emotional blackmail. It is when you use someone's love for their family to force them to do what you want. The king has only met his granddaughter, Lilibet, one time. He has only seen his grandson, Archie, maybe twice. This is very sad for a grandfather. Most grandfathers want to play with their grandkids and watch them grow up. Harry knows that his father's heart is hurting because he misses the children. So, Harry told the media that they would only come to visit if things were exactly the way they wanted. They even said they would only come if Prince William and Princess Catherine were there, or if other things were perfect. They were using the children like a prize that the king could only see if he followed Harry's rules. There is another big reason why Harry wants to be invited to stay with the king. It is not just about family hugs and love. It is about money and safety. In the United Kingdom, if you are a guest of the king at a royal house, the government pays for your security guards. These guards cost a lot of money, millions of dollars. Harry does not want to pay for his own bodyguards anymore. He wants the British people to pay for them. If he can get an official invitation from the king, he might get that free security back. He told the media that he would entertain an invitation. but what he really meant was that he wanted the king to pay his bills. He is trying to trade the chance to see his grandchildren for free security that costs a lot of tax money. But the king said no. By not sending the invitation, the king is showing that he will not be bullied or tricked. He knows that this means he won't get to see Archie and Lilibet this summer, and that makes him very sad. However, he has to think about the whole country and the royal family as a group. If he lets Harry and Meghan keep acting this way without any consequences, they will just keep doing it. They will keep using their titles to sell things, and they will keep making big speeches that cause trouble. The king has to show them that their actions have results. If you are mean to the family, you don't get to come to the party. It is a simple rule that even a fifth grader can understand. There are also legal problems that make an invitation very difficult. Right now, there is a big lawsuit involving a charity that Harry started. A woman is saying that Harry and his team were part of a plan to say bad things about her in the news. This is a very serious thing in court. If the king invited Harry to stay at his house while this was happening, it would look like the king was taking Harry's side. The king has to stay neutral and let the judges decide what is true. So even before the Australia trip happened, it was already a bad idea for the king to have them over. The law and the rules of the palace made it almost impossible to say, "Welcome home." We also need to talk about money because it explains a lot. Reports say that Harry and Meghan are running out of money very fast. When Harry left the royal family, he had money that his mother, Princess Diana, left for him. But that money is mostly gone now. Being a royal who lives like a movie star is very, very expensive. They have to pay for a huge house, lots of travel, and those very expensive security guards. It is estimated that they have spent $38 million just on lawyers and legal fees. They also have to pay $3 million every year just for security. They are trying to make money by giving speeches and selling things, but it is not working as well as they thought it would. They have a runway of about 5 years, which means in 5 years, they might be totally broke if they don't change how they live. Because they are worried about money, Harry was trying very hard to get back into the king's good books, but he wasn't doing it for the right reasons. He didn't seem to care about his father's feelings. He just cared about the state-funded security. The source who knows the king said that all Harry cares about is getting the public to pay for his guards so he doesn't have to spend his own dollars. This makes the king feel very used. It is hard to be a father when you think your son only wants to talk to you because of your checkbook. The king's decision to not invite them is a way of saying, "I am your father, not a bank." One of the meanest things Harry did happen just recently. King Charles has been very sick with cancer. Because he is the king, he still has to work, but it is very hard on his body. He had to go on a big trip to Washington, D.C. to talk to leaders there. He even had to stop his cancer treatments for a little while so he could travel. This was a very stressful and tiring trip. But just 3 days before the king arrived in America, Harry went to a place called Kyiv and gave a big speech. In that speech, he attacked the American government and spoke about politics. This made things very difficult for the king. The king was trying to be friendly with the Americans, but his son was being mean to them at the same time. Doctors say that stress is very bad for people who have cancer. When the king is trying to get better, he needs peace and quiet. But Harry keeps creating drama and stress. Prince William, the king's older son, sees this and is very angry. William wants to protect his father from all this stress. He thinks that the family needs to be very firm and tell Harry to stop. When Harry gave that speech right before the king's visit to Washington, it was like he didn't care at all about his father's health or his father's job. It was very selfish. It showed that Harry wanted to be in the spotlight, even if it hurt his sick father's important work. Some people think Harry is just thoughtless, which means he doesn't think before he acts. They think he doesn't realize that his words cause trouble, but other people think he knows exactly what he is doing. They think he chooses to be famous and talk to the media even if it causes collateral damage. Collateral damage is a big word for when you hurt things or people around you while you are trying to do something else. People who work with Harry say he is incredibly self-centered. This means he mostly thinks about himself and what he wants, rather than how he affects his family or his country. There's also big news in the world of magazines. For a long time, a magazine called US Weekly was very nice to Harry and Meghan. They wrote many stories that made them look like heroes. But recently, that magazine had to close its big office and fire half of its workers. This is because people are stopped buying the magazine to read about the Sussexes. The access journalism model, where reporters get special stories by being friends with celebrities, is failing. It turns out that when you only tell the stories the celebrities want you to tell, people stop trusting you. The truth is starting to come out, and the magazines that tried to hide the truth are losing money and closing down. One reporter, Dan Wakeford, used to be the boss of these magazines. Now that he doesn't work there anymore, he is telling a different story. He is saying that the finances of Harry and Meghan are not as good as they want everyone to think. They said they had a $100 million deal with Netflix, but it wasn't really that much. They said they had a $20 million deal with Spotify, but that didn't work out either. Their big TV projects, like a show about polo, might never even be shown on TV. This shows that the brand of Harry and Meghan is losing its value. People are getting tired of the drama, and the big companies don't want to pay them as much money as they used to. This makes people who have been telling the truth for a long time feel vindicated. That is a big word that means they were right all along. For years, some reporters said that Harry and Meghan were having trouble, but the big magazines called them liars or conspiracy theorists. Now, even the people who used to be on Harry's side are admitting that those liars were actually telling the truth. It is like a secret that everyone finally knows. The truth is that the half-in, half-out plan, where Harry and Meghan wanted to be royals only when it was fun or made them money, is not working. The king's decision to not invite them to Sandringham is like a small version of what another royal family did. In the country of Denmark, the queen there decided one day to take away the royal titles from some of her family members. She said that only the people who do the actual work of being a royal should have the titles. At first, the family was very sad and angry, but later they realized it was a good idea. It made things clear. It let the people who weren't working royals live normal lives, and it kept the monarchy strong. Many people think King Charles should do the same thing. He could use a special rule to say that Harry is still a duke, but he is no longer a prince or a royal highness. This would stop them from using those titles to sell things like candles or books. If the king did this, it would be a very big change. It would mean that Harry and Meghan's children, Archie and Lilibet, wouldn't be called prince and princess in the same way. This would take away the commercial value of their names. Right now, Harry and Meghan use those titles to make their brand seem more important so they can charge more money for things. If the titles went away, they would just be a normal famous couple living in California. This would be a very fair way to solve the problem. It wouldn't be mean, it would just be honest. If you don't do the job, you don't get the title. King Charles has the power to do this right now, but he is a very kind man who doesn't like to fight. He has spent 6 years rolling with the punches, which means he just lets the bad things happen and tries to stay positive. But Prince William is different. William is younger and he is very tired of the drama. Many people think that if Charles doesn't take away the titles, William definitely will when he becomes king. The Sandringham decision is a sign that Charles is finally starting to move in William's direction. He is starting to see that being nice isn't working and that he needs to protect the crown. There is another very scary story that has finally been confirmed. For a long time, some people said that the late Queen Elizabeth was worried that Harry and Meghan were wired. This means they were wearing secret microphones to record private family conversations. At first, people thought this was a crazy idea. But now, a very respected man named Hugo Vickers, who was a close friend of the Queen, has said it is true. The Queen was actually afraid to talk to her own grandson because she thought he might be recording her to sell the tapes to a TV station. This is a heartbreaking thing to think about. It shows why the family is so afraid to let Harry and Meghan back into their homes. If you can't trust your family not to record you, how can you ever be close to them? This is why the beginning of consequences is so important. For 6 years, there were no punishments for anything Harry and Meghan did. They could say whatever they wanted, and the king would still try to be nice. But now that is changing. The door to Sandringham is closed. The newspapers are starting to tell the real stories. The courts are looking at the evidence, and the public is starting to see the truth. In a recent poll, a huge number of people said they were tired of the Sussexes. In Australia, 81% of people had a bad opinion of them. This shows that the managed narrative, the fake story Harry and Meghan tried to tell, is falling apart. Even the way they treat the people who work for them is being talked about. Some people have called Meghan a workplace psychopath. That is a very mean thing to say, but it comes from people who say she treats her staff very badly. They say she smiles for the cameras but is very scary in private. One reporter mentioned a death stare that Meghan gave to a staff member in public. This makes people think that the happy, kind image they show on TV is not the real story. When you treat the people who work for you like they are disposable, or like you can just throw them away, it eventually catches up to you. While all this drama is happening, King Charles is busy doing his real job. Even though he is sick, he is traveling the world to help his country. He is using soft power, which means using his kindness and his status to make friends for the United Kingdom. He is doing this at a significant personal cost, which means it is very hard on his body and his health. This is the exact opposite of what Harry is doing. Charles is working for the people, even when it hurts. Harry is working for himself, even when it hurts his family. This contrast is very clear to everyone now. You have a king who is a servant to his country and a prince who seems to want the country to serve him. The king recently gave a big speech from Balmoral, another royal home. He looked a bit tired and weak because of his illness, but he promised again to spend the rest of his life serving the people. He said his pledge of duty is still his most important promise. In the very same week he made that promise, he also made the choice to keep the Sandringham gate closed to Harry and Meghan. These two things go together. To be a good king and serve the people, he has to keep the monarchy safe and clean. He cannot let people who cause drama and tell secrets stay in the heart of the family. The camel's back is officially broken. This means things will never go back to the way they were before. The summer is coming, and while the rest of the royal family is together at Sandringham, Harry and Meghan will be far away in California. They will have to pay for their own security, and they will have to find new ways to make money because their royal brand is fading. The king is moving slowly, but he is moving in the right direction. He is choosing his duty and his country over the emotional blackmail of a son who has forgotten what it means to be part of a family. There's also new evidence from a woman named Charlotte Griffith. She had a relationship with Harry a long time ago. Harry said in court that they weren't really together, but now some old Facebook messages have been found that prove he wasn't telling the whole truth. This is documentary evidence. It is a piece of paper or a message that proves what really happened. Every time a new piece of evidence like this comes out, it makes Harry's story look weaker. He can deny things as much as he wants, but when there are messages and documents, people believe the documents. The world of royal reporting is changing forever. The access journalists who used to protect Harry and Meghan are losing their power. The alternative commentary, which means independent reporters who tell the honest truth, is becoming the most important place for news. People want to know the real story, not the story that has been cleaned up by a public relations team. The closure of magazines and the firing of staff shows that the old way of doing things is over. The truth is coming out, and it is a story of a king who tried his best and a son who made some very sad choices. In the end, King Charles is doing what a king must do. He is being a leader. He is showing that there are rules that everyone must follow, even if you are a prince. The Sandringham withdrawal is just the beginning. The next few months and years will show even more consequences. Whether it is taking away titles or making new rules for the family, the institution of the monarchy is starting to protect itself. The king's pledge of service is the most important thing, and he will keep that pledge no matter how hard it is. The story of the broken camel's back is a sad one, but it is also a story of a king finding his strength to do what is right for the future of the crown.